So I wanted to quick pop in a video about just following your dreams and what my career path was to getting to where I'm at right now. Okay, so most of you know that I'm from Minnesota. I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota, north side, we outside. Yes, I am from pretty much the hood. I grew up in a very impoverished area, and I grew up like not having much, but my family has always made the best of everything. I did have a very full childhood. I didn't want for a lot. I've always been very curious about other things that the world has to offer. So I've always not settled for what people told me was, the thing to do. People said, oh, you can't do that, or we can't do that. And I'm like, you can do anything. I've always had that attitude, always been very courageous and followed my dreams. And so I went to, middle school, high school, all in Minnesota. And I've always wanted to just get out of Minnesota. I modeled towards the end of high school. And so my early 20s, I tried to really break into the modeling industry. And there wasn't a lot going on in Minnesota for modeling. A lot of the agencies wanted you to pay, which I learned that wasn't the thing to do. And so I still tried to audition, and I'd always get the parts. I never got turned down from one modeling agency. And so, people used to always tell me, you need to move to New York. If you want to be successful, you need to move to New York. And I had one modeling competition, I think it was 2003, 2004, and I had just started to gain a little weight. I was about 23, 24 almost. And so, my woman body was starting to pop. And I went in there, and there were scouts from all over the world there. And I didn't book not one of them, And that kind of really hit my self-esteem at the time. And I was like, maybe this isn't for me. So I let that be my last time modeling. There was, a lot that I wanted to pursue outside of fashion, outside of modeling, although that is still and always has been a huge passion of mine. I will catwalk the runway at work. I love modeling. It was always a passion of mine. So I decided that would be my last time hitting a runway for the moment, and then I finally decided to move to New York. And at that point, I was bigger. I was considered a plus size model, but it still was a passion of mine. So I studied fashion design, which is something that I always have loved to do. Again, I'm a creative, so I can switch from being a photographer to a fashion designer, a stylist. Art is just my soul, So I feel like what most artistic people, we really can do anything when it comes to, creative things. Now, logic, math, and stuff like that, I'm like, you finance and accounting, money people, y'all can have that. But I got this art arena unlocked. So I have always loved fashion. And so I studied fashion design at the Art Institute of New York, and I lived in Brooklyn Heights, right off of High Street. And I transferred my then job from Minnesota to the Bronx. So that train ride was serious. So I used to take the 2 train all the way from, I think I used to take a train from Brooklyn to Manhattan, get off and take the 2 or 3 train all the way to Pelham Parkway in the Bronx every day. It took me about 2 hours to get to work, real life. And I read so many books, I got so many crossword puzzles done, but that was just my life. I worked in the Bronx, I lived in Brooklyn, and I went to school at AI in Manhattan. And looking back, someone would be like, oh my God, that's amazing, I would love to live like that. I was so stressed. I didn't even get to enjoy any of New York really, because I was just hustling from, the crack of morning to night, just on the train, going to school, going to work, getting back to Brooklyn, getting a few hours of sleep. I lived in the dorm, which was an amazing experience, yet the student loans for that is just ridiculous, and I'm still paying that back. So I went through that experience because at the time, Minnesota didn't have any fashion design classes, so it led me to just going ahead and going out of the state and following my fashion design dreams. So I stayed there for about maybe 2.5 semesters, and then I ended up not going back. I think it was the summer, and I was like, this is getting really expensive. I was staying in hostels. Yes, I stayed in a hostel for months, because I really just didn't want to give up and I didn't want to seem like a failure. So I just went ahead and stayed in hostels. It was like $20 a week or $20 a day or something like that. When I got paid, I would pay like 2 weeks up, and it was like bunk beds in the hostels, and there would be like 2 bunk beds in each room, and sometimes the room was huge and other people were in there, and these are all strangers. I didn't know these people, but I met some really amazing people in those hostels. Still people who I'm friends with to this day. So yeah, that was quite cool. And after I left New York, which was very hard to do because I was like, I failed, I've spent all this money, taken out this student loan, and I have nothing to show for it. I didn't graduate or anything. So luckily I ran into my community college, and they had an apparel technology department, which, you know, was like more technical side. So I learned a lot about graphic design, more computer aid design. I learned CAD, and I learned how to sew very well. I was in a fashion show there, and I learned a lot at the community college. It was a 2-year technical degree. I didn't have an associate's or any official diploma or degree. It was, it was a diploma, it wasn't a degree. So I did that and I graduated, and it was great. And I was like, I finally found something that I really know how to do. Lo and behold, I never did anything with that degree, but I always was like, I'm gonna start a fashion design. I'm gonna start a fashion line for tall people. That was my passion at the time, because, you know, I am 6 feet tall. Some of you have seen that on my wedding dress try on, which I'm not married. I just was trying it on to see if I could do a series for you guys. But I told you guys I was 6 feet tall. So after all of that, I traveled. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, but really I become complacent with just going to work and having trips here and there. So I really didn't do much. But then I decided at the age of 29, which I always wanted to do, I was like, I gotta move out of Minnesota. Like, it was so cold there, and I just couldn't take the cold anymore. So then I decided to go ahead and move to Atlanta. Now this is crazy. I've done some crazy things. Just being, you know, courageous and jumping and doing things. I'm very spontaneous. So I decided I'm gonna drive everything in the U-Haul down to Atlanta and just move there. I didn't have a job, didn't have anything. I was trying to get jobs, but when you don't live in the state that you want to move to, it's kind of hard to get a job there unless you have like a huge degree or the company can transfer you there. So what I decided to do was save up a little bit of money. You know, I had like probably like $1,200, which could have been like 2 months rent. I got an apartment that was under $600, and they accepted, you know, I worked at the time. I flew down to Atlanta on Labor Day weekend. I secured an apartment. They told me I could move in, but I didn't have a job. So September 30th, I ended up buying a car, a Sonata. I bought a car. I sold everything in my apartment. I packed my car with everything that I wanted to bring to Atlanta, and I either sold the rest or I put it in my mother's place. And so I drove 16 hours to Atlanta, and I was like, I'm gonna do this. You know, it was courageous. It was a bit scary at times because I worked in the healthcare realm, medical billing and coding and stuff like that. And the competition was serious. Like in Minnesota, I had no problem getting a job. But when I moved to Atlanta, it took me like 2.5 months to get a job. And I didn't get a job until like the middle, like a week before my birthday, the middle of November. I got the job, and then things started to fall into place. I felt like, you know, this is where God wanted me to be at, and I was gonna do great things in Atlanta. And then I started to realize my full potential and to tap into the things that I felt like God had in store for you. Really, I had heard a church sermon which really gave me confirmation that I needed to move to Atlanta. He said, you have to get to where God is throwing you the ball to. Like if you play football, you have to go to wherever the wide receiver or whatever is throwing the ball at. And so in my heart, I felt like Atlanta was that place for me. Somewhere I always wanted to live. There's a lot of black people down there. You know, just seeing people who look like me and who were motivated, who were entrepreneurs. I wasn't seeing that in Minnesota. So coming to Atlanta, I was like, wow, I see the potential for me to be an entrepreneur even more. So I packed up, I moved there, and you know, I just working a regular job, but I was still painting. So that led me all to, you know, taking floral design classes. And if you don't know the story, I think I talked about it on my Etsy shop. Me and my significant other had a birthday party back about 4 years ago. We had a joint birthday party together, and that's when I discovered that I love event design. I love throwing parties. My dad always threw parties growing up, but I didn't know how much I loved to decorate until we threw that party together, and it was amazing. And I was like, oh, I have something here, you know? You know, you just feel that. And I did the decor, and he handled all the other things. And I went on Pinterest, and I got the color schemes, and you know, the plates, the balloons, the floral designs. I didn't even know that I knew how to do floral designs or anything like that. So that's what prompted me to get into event design. I feel like I still have a lot to uncover about what I'm truly here for, but I do know this for sure. God has always spoken to me that I have a voice that people listen to, and I really do need to tap into making more videos just talking about my experiences. I do want to open up some sort of a platform to where, excuse me, I have people on my channel and I help them through their problems. One thing I didn't tell you guys, I totally forgot to mention this. I did study psychology. I completely forgot about that. So go back a little bit. I know I'm all over the place. I studied psychology at Maranatha College in Minnesota, which is a Bible college. And so I always thought about pastoral degrees, and I definitely have always just wanted to help people. So everything I've done in life has always been to help people. So I did study psychology, and then I went on for fashion design, and then I got, you know, into more event design and stuff like that. So that's my background, and that's the things that I have done to get me to this place right now. It's cost me a lot of money to discover what I wanted to do, which doesn't have to be the case in this day and age. You can just YouTube everything, you know, and figure it out and try it on your own. Back then we didn't have that. It was like you had to go out and really figure it out. But yeah, it was a very costly road to get to where I'm at currently. I do feel like success is right around the corner for me. I feel like you do have to keep trying stuff until you reach something that you're like, wow, I can monetize off of this, and this is something I love to do, and I can make my passion my reality. So that's where I'm at right now in my life. You know, I'm just trying out different things: YouTube, Etsy, event design, sometimes weddings, stuff like that, creating for people. And eventually you'll just get to a place where it all flows and something will just pop and it'll burst, and that's exactly where you're supposed to be, and being in alignment will fall into place. So that's my backstory on my career and how I finally got to where I'm at. And I'm still uncovering and unveiling a lot of where I want to be. But it'll all fall into place. Really, it's just about trusting the journey, knowing that God has something really amazing in store for you. That's all you really got. Just do the best that you can. Follow your dreams no matter what. You know, I always say, follow your dreams and the money will follow. You know, a lot of people worry, oh, if I start a YouTube channel, it's going to cost me this and this and that. I started a YouTube channel, and in the beginning I was renting cameras every 2 weeks, okay? And when I would rent the camera, I would knock out like 3-4, you know, DIYs within that week or two that I can store up and edit throughout the weeks and post them on my YouTube channel. Like, the passion truly was there. And it's getting back there again. My channel is slowly getting back to where it used to be. I did take a break earlier this year, and my views have been a lot lower than what I'm used to. But I know if I keep at it, just like before, it'll pop back off again. So I hope that this has motivated you to just try some things. You really do. I try and tell people that all the time. You know, people are like, how did you figure it out? You've always known this. I didn't always know anything. I've always had a curious mind to go and figure things out and try to piece it all together. Go create your own empire. So thanks so much for watching. Make sure that you subscribe, also like and share this video. I'll see you guys really soon on Sunday with a DIY. Have a blessed day. Bye.